Hello, my name is Juan Reyes, and today I will be giving you a presentation on a certain type of intelligence. And we're going to be going into some level of detail about it. We'll be talking about how this intelligence is used and what are some learning resources and developing skills on how to gather and analyze this type of intelligence. And we'll also consider job career opportunities and possibilities with this particular type of intelligence gathering. So for starters, let me just introduce myself. My name is Juan Reyes. I'm an information security consultant. I have over 30 years experience in a variety of information technology fields, specializing in cybersecurity for the past 12 years. I hold a master's degree in identity management and security from the University of Texas at Austin. And I also taught at UT Austin as well. Over the course of 5 years, I created and taught a digital forensics course, investigating digital crimes, computer crimes. I currently teach IT courses for Divergence Academy, which is based out of Addison, Texas. And I also teach for Pueblo Community College here locally at the Fremont campus. I consult on technical security projects and provide technical security training services to companies. And I own and operate Reyes Secure, which is a cybersecurity consulting firm based here in Canyon City, Colorado. Throughout the course of my career, I've been employed by AT&T, by HP, and Cisco Systems. And I'm also a veteran of the United States Air Force. And with that introduction out of the way, we'll get started. Let's talk about this intelligence. It can help you make an informed investment decision. It can help you decide if you should go on a date with a particular someone. It can aid hackers in learning a target organization's security weaknesses. It can inform on the status and dynamics of geopolitical climates. It can aid in the search efforts of missing persons. It can aid in identifying criminals and bring them to justice. And it can aid in the investigations of child exploitation. It provides a multiplicity of other purposes. This is just a few examples of how it can be used. Now, aside from the cost of internet connectivity and of a platform such as a laptop, a phone, or a tablet that can connect to the internet, accessing it is usually free of charge. Most of us have all used it to some extent, at least by doing a simple Google search on some topic or a subject. Perhaps you've gathered and analyzed it using social media to get a better understanding about a person, a business, or some other type of entity. Recently, it was used to identify a Florida man and provide evidence that led to his conviction on charges of assaulting, resisting or impeding officers, civil disorder, and being in a restricted building or grounds on January 6, 2021 at the US Capitol. Images, videos, and Facebook posts identified the man and provided supporting evidence that confirmed he committed the actions for which he was charged. And just a few days ago, on December 17, 2021, a judge sentenced him to more than 5 years in prison. And that sentencing came about based upon this type of intelligence that we're discussing today. Now, some may hold the opinion that the internet and social media are devoid of intelligence. I might agree with you on that. But such an assessment isn't entirely true, because what we're talking about is found in abundance on the internet and on social media platforms. What are we talking about? We're talking about OSINT, open source intelligence. So OSINT is defined as any intelligence produced from publicly available information that is collected, exploited, and disseminated in a timely manner to an appropriate audience for the purpose of addressing a specific intelligence requirement. And OSINT is information content that is publicly available, typically via the internet. It can also be some further definitions of OSINT can explain it as multi-source intel gathering techniques for collecting, analyzing, and making decisions about data accessible from publicly available sources for use in information gathering efforts. One might consider OSINT as a noun. You could say that OSINTing is a verb, which is this multi-source intelligence gathering. That would be OSINTing, analyzing, if you will. It's can be called, can be characterized as the collection, analysis, and correlation of publicly available information about a subject, any particular subject, person, organization, some entity of interest. And the term open refers to publicly accessible information, as opposed to paid for or access restricted sources. So I think we've established here fairly well emphatically that OSINT is publicly available information. Let's talk about the legality of OSINT collection and analysis. Is OSINT and OSINTing as an activity, is it legal? Is it ethical? Well, in the US and the UK, OSINT is legal, but investigators need to stay within a clearly defined framework, which is agreed with their clients in advance of conducting OSINT. Much will depend on where target information resides. OSINT gathers information where there is a reasonable expectation of public access, a blog post or a LinkedIn profile, for instance, is generally considered legal. But where data are password protected, obtained by deception, or anonymized and aggregated, the legality is less clear-cut. Now, according to Drew Porter, who is an analyst, an OSINT analyst with Red Mesa, it often comes down to intent. When an organization is hired to OSINT for companies or high net worth individuals, it is 100% ethical. When someone is doing it to stalk an ex, it's not ethical. At PwC, Price Waterhouse, Louise Taggart and Kirsten Ward point to the Berkeley Protocol, which sets out a framework for conducting open source investigations into war crimes and human rights violations as a useful ethical standard for cybersecurity related OSINT. Now, these are opinions, and they're just that. So you can glean from these explanations provided by these individuals that there is no reference to a specific legal framework, a set of laws that govern how OSINT can be collected and to what extent it can be collected, what it can be used for. We aren't there yet. With the interest in privacy, perhaps over the course of the next few years, we may see some laws put in place that will put some reins, some control around OSINT gathering, OSINT analysis, and how it's used. Now, the Berkeley Protocol, for example, is very specific in what it covers. It covers war crimes and human rights violations. And there are so many other types of investigations that wouldn't be covered by the Berkeley Protocol because they're, the intent of the investigation isn't to uncover something related to war crimes and human rights violations. There can be other types of crimes. So again, we're seeing situations where investigations that aren't going to be covered by this. Certainly, it may be a good idea to use Berkeley Protocol as some form of a reference, but investigators or analysts would not be required to do so. I think it comes down to, it certainly does come down to intent. Gathering OSINT to stalk an ex or some other person, it's not good. The intent is not good there. Shaming people, doing it for the intent of shaming people, not good. And just because something is legal doesn't make it ethical. And just because something is ethical doesn't make it legal either. But we've discussed enough of this. There's still a lot of gray area in how to determine what what is legal and what is ethical in the context of OSINT, collection and analysis. All right, let's talk about the layers of OSINT. Where does this intelligence exist? We can say that there are three general layers here. There's the frontline web, which includes your basic internet search engines such as Google, of course, Bing, if anyone actually uses that. Social media in particular is a trove as well. Public records that are easily accessible via the frontline web, another example. There's also the deep web, which is some examples of the deep web would be the Wayback Machine, which is archiving of old intelligence and old websites, older data. And also Google Dorks, which is a particular type of fine-tuning approach to doing highly specialized Google searches with a specific type of syntax. And of course, there's also the dark web, which is typically going to be accessed via the Tor network or the Onion Router network. That's what Tor stands for. And the chat rooms and boards that exist on the dark web, which are accessible via Tor. Here are some basic examples of a sequence, a flow, and how an investigation can pivot based upon a particular data point. If we start off with a first name and a last name as our atomic data point, our first data point, we can start doing some basic searches. If we know what county that individual lives in, we can go to the county's tax assessor site to view the properties that that person owns based on first name or last name. Once we've got the addresses, we can go to Zillow.com or Realtor.com and maybe even view some interior pictures of the property, of the house, and also use Google Earth to view the house as well. And other ways to manipulate this type of search. One can start by going to the county tax assessor site and just putting in a street name, and then looking at all the names of the people who own properties on a particular street. This is all publicly accessible information. Another basic flow would be starting with a Facebook post. And from a Facebook post, a person would be able to extract a social media username. And from that username, an analyst may be able to determine a person's real name and then take that person's real name to perform some Google searches to narrow down where a person lives, general location, county, city, maybe even the specific street address. And then also if the analyst, the investigator, can also find information regarding the person's political affiliation through online voter registration records. It's more information that can be extracted through these searches, and also determining the person's age and address history, possibly. One can even take a tail number from an aircraft, helicopter, a commercial jet, private jet, and enter it into the FAA's tail number search inquiry site. Now here on the left, we see a picture of an aircraft with this tail number, N904DE, and then entered into the FAA's search tool, which is publicly available. We're able to get some information on the aircraft itself, who manufactured it. It's a McDonnell Douglas aircraft, the model, and the registered owner, which is Delta Airlines, and street address. And this will also contain information for private owners, not just commercial owners such as the public airlines. Private jets, you'll be able to find information about who owns the specific aircraft using this type of tool. There are all manner of different types of entities and activities that are typical search subjects. Here is an example of a few, but certainly not limited to these. There's a person of interest, cryptocurrency activities. This is becoming an area of interest, determining attribution and the flow of money, the flow of a transaction. And hackers will use OSINT to formulate their phishing and fraud efforts that they attempt to deliver via email. Delivering ransomware is something that's commonly done after a organization of some type has been profiled to determine targets of interest within the organization or the email address format of an organization. The network footprint, this is also used by ethical hackers and malicious hackers as well to gain some reconnaissance on a target organization to understand the attack surface of an organization. And then the malicious hackers will be able to formulate their plan, how they're going to go about attempting to infiltrate the organization's network to extract some form of valuable data. And ethical hackers will perform the exact same type of approach, same methodology to test what they're able to extract from publicly available resources. And ethical hackers would write that up in their report to inform an organization to say, this is the information that's publicly available about you. You may want to take some steps to the best of your ability to control what you can control, mitigate what is publicly available out there. As with any type of activity that one would take, you have to establish an approach. You have to start out with some form of a plan, not an overly rigid plan. Don't get married to your initial approach. The dynamics and nuances of the search process can necessitate that you change things up throughout the course of the investigation, and search outputs can dictate a change or pivot in another direction. But generally, answering these three basic questions will establish a good starting point. First is, what is the main research goal? What or who is the entity of interest, whether it's an individual, a group, corporation, etc. And how will the research be conducted? Now, where is much OSINT stored, collected? Where is it extracted from? Well, social media. Social media should be no surprise. According to Pew Research, 65% of American adults use social media, which means that individuals have at least one social profile containing a variety of personal and professional information. So social media is an OSINT-rich environment. As an example of one tool, Sherlock is a tool written in Python, the Python scripting language, and it runs on Linux natively, and it can run in Windows with PowerShell. And Sherlock is a tool, a Python tool that specifically looks for social media account names. So if you know a person's Facebook social media account name or their Instagram username, you can use the Python tool and get all of these results that are listed here from all of these different platforms to show you other social media platforms, or not even just social media, but other sites or services where that same username is in place. So in this example here, the script is run python.sherlock.py. That is how you execute the Python script. And then you specify the username. This is Milo Serdov. And the output, the script does its thing, executes. And the output of the script shows these different sites, these different social media platforms where that username is in use. And then someone doing an investigation can search on these other sites to attempt to gather more intel, more intelligence about that particular person that's using that username. And Sherlock is quite nice. In a live terminal, these links here with the HTTPS, ask.fm, etc., audiojournal.net, these are all clickable within the terminal. So if you click the link, it'll open a browser and you'll be able to view that social media profile right then and there. Makes for a nice workflow. Now, anyone who's going to be executing a OSINT search needs to formulate a search plan. There is an excellent starter tool at the OSINTessentials.com site listed here, and it will assist you in forming a search sequence, an initial search sequence. And it's going to be based upon what is your first data point that you have. Do you have a name, a username, a photo that may have some metadata as well? These are the different examples we see here over to the left. So use the starter tool to form your sequence and pivot accordingly. The outputs from a particular search sequence may dictate that you pivot in another direction, or you just keep flowing the way you would have expected to map out the search. Now, any talk about using OSINT, using tools, would be void if it didn't mention the OSINT framework. The OSINT framework is the most extensive repository of tools for OSINT information gathering and investigations. It sorts the resources into 32 categories based on the type of data investigators are looking for: public records, social networks, images, videos, digital currency, dark web, archives, and more. In each category, you can find free and paid tools that can be used to locate the data in question. And we just have a bunch of different categories here. Whatever your data point is, if you have a telephone number, if you have an IP address as a starting point, a username, email address, all of these options here. Now, of course, tool selection and use of the tools is going to depend on the subject under investigation and the data points already known about the subject. There's another example of a flow here, a sequence flow. This is available from inteltechniques.com. And we see here at the very top, our first data point would be a real name of an individual, a first name, a last name, and the different directions we can go. We can start looking at social media, Twitter, Facebook, going to look at voter records, doing a Google search for voter records to get things like age and party affiliation, maybe even street address, possibly. And there's all these other data aggregators here, Spokio, People, Intellius, etc. Might be able to do some correlation here and determine some relatives from sites such as Spokio or True People. We might be able to get some names of relatives as well. And also from social media posts such as Facebook. It's a pretty target-rich environment for learning associates' names, such as friends and families of the individual. Some excellent resources, some book resources, printed resources out there. The first one here is Hunting Cyber Criminals. I have this book. Its title is Hunting Cyber Criminals, A Hacker's Guide to Online Intelligence Gathering Tools and Techniques. This is the first edition. Still new, 2020, relatively new. Author is Vinny Troya. Got the ISBN information here, and it's available on Amazon. Excellent book. I have a copy of it. Another great book that I have as well, is open source intelligence techniques, resources for searching and analyzing online information, paperback version. This was published January 1st, 2021, so it's only about a year old. It's about to be a year old. The author is Michael Bazell. It's available on Amazon as well. We got some links to other learning resources. There's the OSINT Framework Tools Map. We saw the screenshot of that in a few slides earlier. That was the screenshot that showed the many different tools and how to flow through and sequence your search, using your data points. Another excellent write-up is available from maltego.com. OSINT, what it is and how to conduct investigations with it. Maltego's been an OSINT, or has been an OSINT tool that's been around for quite some time. I mean, over a decade. It's been used for intelligence gathering. Has been popular with cybersecurity professionals that are doing either pen testing, penetration testing, reconnaissance, also for digital forensics and cyber crime investigators as well, to just gain intel on any particular subject of interest, whether it's an individual, an entity, or maybe even potentially trying to associate some form of an activity to a nation state. Maltego has been a useful tool, or can be a useful tool in such efforts. There's some excellent hands-on learning resources available. Particularly, there's a Linux distribution with preloaded tools that are already ready to use. They're pre-installed, pre-configured, ready to go. And this is available through Trace Labs. It's a virtual machine that can be run in VMware, the free version of VMware. I have personally not tested this in VirtualBox. One might need to go to the site to confirm if it runs in VirtualBox, if a person has a preference for VirtualBox. But I can confirm that it runs well in VMware's free workstation version. Now, Trace Labs is interesting, is that in particular because it is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to accelerate the family reunification of missing persons, while also training members in the tradecraft of open source intelligence. And I've got some links in here to check out their training exercises. These are sort of like a capture the flag sort of gamification, if you will, exercises where individuals will go through these intelligence flows, intelligence gathering sequence flows, and find information and develop the skills, develop the ability, develop the know-how in formulating a search. From their website, these training exercises, it's like a traditional search and rescue team. And each team will be comprised of 4 individuals. And if you can pair up with some OSINT veterans, then a person who's new to OSINT gathering can certainly learn a lot from those team members that have more experience. Definitely worth checking out. It's if anyone is interested in comprehensive hands-on learning how to do OSINT, this is the place to start, in my opinion. There's also another Linux virtual machine that's available. It's called Tsurugi Linux. It's got a focus on DFIR, which is digital forensics and incident response. It will always be free, but it also has some OSINT tools as well. So part of doing digital forensics and incident response commonly is going to involve doing some form of OSINT investigation, particularly when the DFIR effort has gotten to a point where there needs to be a determination of who committed a particular crime, such as was there an individual or a group that was behind and executed a data breach on a corporation. So DFI, our investigators, will use OSINT in an attempt to determine attribution, to attribute the adverse action to a particular individual or group. Some excellent video presentations, training presentations out on YouTube. This first one, the complete open source intelligence training course. This is 2 hours and 25 minutes long. Pretty comprehensive, quite good. For a shorter duration sampler, there's doing a live OSINT investigation on an Instagram influencer. It's only 12 minutes and 21 seconds, a little over 12 minutes. It's worth checking out. It's quite entertaining. Here are some Twitter handles to follow for anyone who keep up to date with the status of OSINT and what's going on with current investigations. Michael Bazell, he wrote and published that second book that I showed, the OSINT gathering book. This is his handle, at Intel Techniques. And there's some other folks. These are folks that are spread around the world. So you get a perspective, a worldwide perspective on OSINT investigations. Well, what can you do with this skill besides, just develop it, sit around on a Saturday night, finding information about people? Well, you can monetize this. So you can make a career about it. Turn this into a career, become a profession. So I've included some job postings from Indeed. And starting here, my search criteria in the what field, I just searched for OSINT and where, anywhere in the United States, remote. So here's this job. It's a Protective Intelligence Center analyst for a company called, or an organization called Crisis 24. It's remote and full-time. And in the job description, these PIC intelligence analysts leverage advanced technology, OSINT, which is what we're talking about today here, obviously, and HUMINT collections. If you want to know what HUMINT is, you can search Wikipedia and find out what that is. Now, further description here, what this job is, what makes it interesting. As a PIC intelligence analyst, you will identify, track, analyze, assess, and report on known and emerging risks to the safety and security of our associates and clients. Sounds like interesting work, right? You will monitor a wide variety of risk vectors, including geopolitical events, natural hazards, crime, terrorism, health concerns, etc. Additionally, you will be cross-trained in investigative and threat assessment techniques and resources to further enhance our mission and service to clients. Sounds like interesting work again. And we have another job posting. This is an investigator looking into extremism funding. And this is with the ADL, or the Anti-Defamation League. This is a remote position. Experience with financial analysis, cryptocurrencies, and blockchain. Experience with OSINT investigative methods. And based upon this description and the job title, investigator of extremism funding, we can reasonably deduce that there's going to be an emphasis on cryptocurrency, OSINT analysis here, following the money, how extremist groups receive their funding. And we have another job posting here. This is a intelligence solutions analyst for Averstream Analytics. This is a remote job as well. And in the description, we've got implementing social media monitoring tools to detect events such as industrial fires, geopolitical crises, natural disasters, labor strikes, customs issues, port congestions, cargo disruptions, et cetera, that can impact supply chain resiliency. So in recent times, we've all been impacted by, or have been impacted or affected by supply chain resiliency. So also analyzing incoming data streams and report time-sensitive risk alerts based on information obtained from open source media, OSINT. There's just an example of 3 examples that I provided here of jobs. If one were to go to Indeed or any of the other job sites and just type in OSINT or open source intelligence as a search criteria, they can pull up other jobs. And it's quite a wide variety. It's not just intelligence analysts, like cybersecurity professionals will use it. Law enforcement uses OSINT, as you could well imagine, extensively. The the 3-letter agencies, government agencies use OSINT as well. Insurance companies, fraud, looking for indicators of fraud, looking at people's lavish lifestyles on Facebook and Instagram after a claim for an injury of some sort. And if there's a posting of somebody water skiing, that could be an indicator that a person committed some type of fraud to get money. But just one example. Financial institutions use OSINT as well for other reasons, for a variety of reasons. Just their risk management. They're going to want to know about a person, an entity, or a group, or the dynamics of a particular area before they make a money decision to invest in an area, for example. So in closing, know the power of OSINT. Use it for good, and also consider the career possibilities. If you're putting information about yourself on the internet and on social media, I humbly recommend that you just control what you can control. And with that, thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.